Welcome to the Growth Zone. I am Christian Bartsch and I have a really interesting session for you today. Today's topic is how to get your costs down while your business has been decentralized during the pandemic times. So we have three areas that we will focus on, and they are: why do we need to decentralize our businesses by cutting organizations into smaller dispersed teams? Second, how you unclutter your company's IT infrastructure and processes to cut costs and speed up your teams. And we finalize that with the third area, looking at how future team structures reduce economic and health risks while increasing profitability for our business. So, why do we need to decentralize our business by cutting organizations into smaller dispersed teams? So, we are aware that at the moment all the stuff that's going around, all these health issues, risks and all these things that are actually demanding from us to have a certain kind of social distancing. Just think of it. How will be the effect on businesses, on commercial real estate, on anything that requires people usually to sit close by? Even in meetings or anything, everything that we used to of sitting close to each other, even in schools and that, where schools usually kids sitting next to each other and you know who you're sharing a table with and so on. But now in the work environment, things are going to change massively. And it's not just that many people are going to work from home. Many people will lose their jobs, but those who keep their jobs or are self-employed will have to think, okay, how can I manage my team? How can I manage my premises, my business, so that I reduce the risk of having team members, employees, and so on getting sick? And the key thing is in there, we will need space. So some businesses will say, okay, if I am anyway cutting down in staff, and let's say I have a business with maybe 1,000 employees and I cut a quarter, and because I don't need that quarter anymore, because I have too many people there, the demand in sales and so on, everything is going down. And even the best salesperson can't sell if there's no client wanting to buy because they don't need the stuff, or there's nobody you can reach, because if you can't talk to anybody, can't send anybody an email and so on, because they're all either out of business or have put a hold on their expenses, you have a big problem. So you have to really cut and see what's essential. So yeah, that means of course then every fourth desk would be empty. But in reality, when you look at how condensed offices usually are, we would need to have every fourth desk occupied and all other three desks non-occupied because of the certain space. It might be only every third desk non-occupied if you calculate by space that you maybe have three desks on a certain space and two shouldn't be occupied. Some people you can of course have home office. You can even arrange that they come, maybe let's say person number 1 comes on Monday, person number 2 comes on Tuesday, and number 3 comes on Wednesday. And this way then you have at least everyone has a chance to have one day in the office and you can have meetings with them and so on. But if you're anyway cutting down, you'll have an issue and you'll start thinking, well, I have to maybe arrange, because depending on the person who you are getting rid of, it doesn't automatically mean that this person is going to be sitting at the right location. So you have to move desks around, all these things. And maybe even the space that you've got doesn't help very much, because usually maybe there are 2 or 3 people rooms. So that you have to start moving people around and suddenly someone who usually would sit with 3 others has his own room, and you start thinking, I'm paying crazy amount of rent or lease for this space, and there's only one person sitting on it. That's totally inefficient and it's crazy. So you could actually go and decentralize, which means instead of having a building that can fill 1,000 people, you get rid of that building. Maybe if you have the chance, you can maybe downsize so that you only have like one level in that building, because you need to have your IT, your equipment somewhere until you are able to put it all into cloud. But until then, you'll have to start moving everybody out. You can move some into the home office, and some you move into smaller real estate premises. So we will see a drive towards smaller offices where you can have maybe 20, 50 or 100 people in there. At the same time, it means it'll have to be cheaper premises because we need more space for fewer people. So we can't be putting people crammed into a small office. That doesn't work anymore. We have to have space, and that means we need much more space, because even if you have air conditioning might even be a problem as well. So we don't know what the scientists are going to find out in the next few months, what else isn't good and so on. But it means for businesses, we have to start decentralizing, massively decentralizing, so that we are able to survive in a business environment, cut costs, get out of the big expensive buildings, and move towards smaller premises. It is as well safety-wise a better thing, because even if something happens, you don't have the risk of having a huge amount of people being affected. Yeah, because it could be, let's say you have, and then maybe 5 locations. And one location, one person gets ill and then infects maybe 100 people on that location. Okay, it's at least one location and it's closed. But if you have everybody on one premises and everybody gets ill, then you've got a big problem, and that's a huge issue, because then you have a totally different kind of cost happening and hitting you, because then you don't know who's going to get sick, which department, and if you're lucky, it's a department that you can't survive without, and if they're all out and sick, you're busted, because it's like as if you need all the salespeople and they're all ill, or the logistics people are ill, then you can't ship anything. Yes, some people can go and package parcels and so on, but if you need certain skills and knowledge, and you haven't got the people on site, you're stuck. So cut organizations, even decentralize units, which means, for instance, logistics, go and separate logistics. And let's say you have maybe 10 people in logistics, go and put them in different locations. Let's say 5 people in one and 5 people in another location. So you've still got a minimum risk. And the same happens for sales, same happens for marketing, and so on and so on. One side thing, you cut as well your lease costs for your offices. At the same time, you save costs, which is good and necessary, especially when you're thinking of that this pandemic can even result in economic depression that will last maybe 12 to 18 months, maybe a little bit longer, until everything picks up. One could estimate that it takes 3 to 6 months then until the whole economy is back at full speed. Nevertheless, you have to think, okay, I have to cut costs, get out of the expensive offices, and see how you can make arrangements, because it's definitely even safety-wise better, because let's see it in most cities, and it doesn't matter whether it's North America or Europe, most cities that have high-rising buildings, skyscrapers and so on, or large buildings, usually they're somewhere in the center. And in order to get to the business, you need to usually use public transport. The majority of your staff will be using public transport. They're not coming by car. Your garages or whatever you might have available cannot fit 1,000 cars in a location for 1,000 people. Maybe you've got 10 or 100 spaces maybe for your managers and so on. But what about the other 900 people? It makes no sense. So you can't avoid them having contact with other people. So you have to go and see, how can I get everybody into a mode of moving where the exposure to any kind of health risks is reduced. And that's actually a result of avoiding public transport. You think, oh, but it's economical. Hey, if you are available and can use most of the week from home office, it's better. So you don't need to do so much travel. You don't need so much public transport, less risk, less health hazards. And for the public transport, might be even a chance maybe to fix infrastructure, repair stuff, and get other stuff done that usually they couldn't, because the trains are usually full. But if suddenly the trains and the buses and so on are maybe just only at 10% or 20% capacity, it means they have availability to fix stuff. They can fix the tracks, they can fix the trains, the wagons, the buses, the trams, it doesn't matter. They can do all the vital work in peace without trying to do some crazy stuff. And it's much, much easier. And then once the whole thing has relaxed and the world is able to live again in a normal way without having to run around with masks and so on, things become easier and everybody is able to go back to the habits that we prefer and enjoy most. Nevertheless, what can we do in order to disperse the teams? So, as I said, you have to cut the teams into sections, disperse each department into different locations. And at the same time, make sure that you've got an infrastructure that is capable actually to handle that, which means your people need to have some IT. They need to access any kind of software, whether it's your CRM system, your accounting system, your product design, whatever. You can go into the cloud and use these things in that kind of area. Whether you're using a public or private cloud, it doesn't matter. I'm sure your IT staff will figure out what's the best for your business, but you have to move your infrastructure, move the business into a more flexible mode. A diversified and dispersed organization has a higher survival mode in the current pandemic. What could you then generate by that? Because your teams are locally dispersed, they don't have to travel so long, they have less commuting time, and they don't have to be every day in the office. You will be able as well to cut your on-site costs, because it's not just about the leases that you're paying. You have your operational costs, cleaning the offices, having all the garbage disposed, and so on and so on. That's all costs that add on to your operational premises cost. That all drops suddenly. And as well, your energy costs drop, because you don't have to run server infrastructure in one premise and cool and everything. You go and move everything into a cloud. It's much, much easier and safer for you. Let's think further on. What else could you actually do? So how can you actually unclutter your company's IT and processes? We want to cut costs and speed up our team's efficiency and processes. So, as I said, you have to move your IT into a more flexible mode. It has to be faster, easier to run, to maintain, and you have to reduce the costs. Any kind of hardware that you've got on site is a cost and is a operational nightmare, because of course when the stuff breaks, when it gets old, when it's used or whatever, you have to replace it, you have to reinstall it and everything. It all takes time, money and efficiency. And your server rooms are going to be a high cost in the pandemic time. You need to get rid of them. So try to move everything into the cloud as far as you can. Other things you can still run as well into a different kind of mode. You can even have a small premise somewhere that has a good internet connection and use that for people to access if you have certain kind of things. For instance, your product development and that stuff, you don't necessarily want to have that in the cloud. But you can create your own private cloud, which is only available to your employees, and it's running on your own infrastructure, but in a location that is more up-to-date and flexible and fitting to your current needs. No longer sitting somewhere in the cellar or in the high-rising towers of a expensive building. The time of high expenses and high profits are past. For the next 18 to 25 months, you'll have to expect that. So, speed up your teams. Exactly. So when you're moving your organization, you have to start thinking, okay, certain kind of stuff we can renovate. And I mean by that, moving the software that you maybe have developed in-house into a new platform. Let's say you've had it on as a desktop system and you're moving it into a cloud, ASP.NET or any kind of other kind of platform. And at the same time, you could do any kind of other improvements. You can start introducing other kind of software that's maybe based in the cloud, whether it's a CRM system or a marketing tool, an operational tool, a design tool, even for your marketing team. Maybe you're going to start implementing Office 365. Maybe you are implementing publishing tools and so on. For instance, I'm now recording this here with Adobe Audition. That's part of a Adobe Cloud subscription, which means the software is still installed on my desktop, and it doesn't matter whether I've got here a Windows computer or next to me my MacBook Pro. There are two different platforms, different hardwares. The license is valued for both. And if you have a certain need for certain team size, you can arrange for a good value where you've got the software and it automatically updates. But it has an advantage at the same time that maybe the software is fitting to what you need now and not what you used to need, because you are changing your way of working. Your teams have to get used to a new way of collaboration. And that actually, if it's done smart and people are starting to work with each other and valuing each other's time much more, you will be able to cut your costs and you'll have much more motivated people because they're speeding stuff up, and each meeting is valuable and they'll be enjoying it and they'll be super focused on getting stuff done properly, because that's what actually maintains and protects their jobs. That's the reality. So, looking at how future team structures can reduce the economic and health risks while increasing the profitability is an important item in our today's topic. So, as we've been talking about, we have to disperse the teams. We have to modernize our infrastructure, move some of the infrastructure into the cloud, maybe even move from old style software products to new style products like cloud-based products, whether they are running on updating systems, like for instance with the Adobe system, or on a cloud system where actually we have just used our browser on that. That's all things you can use. And these systems run often on highly secure platforms, whether it's Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure services, on all these different kind of high quality cloud systems. You are able to use all these things. And there's a huge variety on the market. But the core thing, of course, there you have to then eventually think, do I want to have a horizontal software as a service for my business? Do I want to lease this kind of software? Or do I need a vertical software as a service, vertical SaaS tool, which is actually absolutely fitting to my niche because I have maybe special needs? Let's say a business that develops, for instance, motor parts, or a business that's in the pharmaceutical area and I have a certain kind of thing, certain regulations and so on that I need. Then if there's a tool on the market that actually fits that kind of niche, then I'll be more happy to use that tool than to be on a generalistic tool that just serves any kind of industry. Because it might be good, but it doesn't really, I still have to work around quite a lot in order to get it really compliant with my needs. And the bigger the organization, the more the issue of compliance will be an important effect for our business. So look at that, see how you can really structure one of your teams, reorganize them, focus not just on dispersing and having them in different locations, but maybe as well seeing how can I use new tools, new locations, and new organization structures, and as well hand out new kind of tasks and responsibilities so that actually we become more effective in what we're doing. And cut out all the garbage, the noise that's in your business. I mean, that stuff that is not relevant, not important to your business. Get rid of all that. As well, see which products are going well, which products are not going well. Certain products you might have to actually take off, whether it's permanently or for the duration of the crisis. You'll have to take them off your production line, stop producing them, and wait until times have improved and see if then eventually they make sense. Might even be that after 20, 25 months, you might decide and say, we don't actually need that product. There's not really any sufficient demand, and maybe it's not even necessary. We just leave it. We don't need it anymore. And maybe you replace it with other kind of new products. So see how you can improve as well your organizational views at getting more clarity in your entire business, whether it's for the production, product development, marketing, sales, logistics, any kind of organizational administration areas, your IT, clean up your IT, get rid of systems that are actually not providing value, that actually do not support your organization. All these systems, get rid of them. You don't need them anymore. And focus on improving processes. Get businesses running more efficiently, faster, because you will have fewer people, you'll have more challenges to deal, and you have to keep your costs down. And you cannot keep running the business in an old-fashioned way where you're just wasting money every day and just pouring it out of the wind or out of the window as if it were endlessly coming through your front door. And it is not going to be the way for the next 25 months if you go from a very conservative point of view at what's going to happen in the next few months. So I hope this was helpful. Focus therefore on what you can do to cut costs, improve your efficiency, decentralize, reduce your risk exposure, and see where you can modernize. So investing on what is really essential. Vitality is now no longer a topic. So you want to be essentially focused on stuff that really is essential to your business, and that's where you have to be. So our next episode will be an interview with Brian Clayton. Brian is the CEO and co-founder of GreenPair, an online marketplace that connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. GreenPal has been called the Uber for lawn care by Entrepreneur magazine and has over 100,000 active users completing thousands of transactions per day. Very impressive numbers. And yeah, we will be having a great conversation about following 3 core topics. After having founded 2 highly successful businesses and sold the first one, what does Brian think is the most important element of small business growth? The second part is when you look at bootstrapping businesses from zero to profitability, what are the necessary steps to achieve that? And we finish then with the current volatility in the market. What do you see as an effective marketing strategy for SMEs now? That's what I will be talking about with Brian. And just to remind you, what did Brian do before? So Brian started GreenPal, and before that, he had founded Peachtree Incorporated, one of the largest landscaping companies in the state of Tennessee, growing it to over $10 million a year in annual revenue, before it was acquired by Lusa Holdings in 2013. Brian's interests and expertise are related to entrepreneurialism, small business growth, marketing, and bootstrapping businesses from zero revenue to profitability and exit. So I'm looking forward to this interview, and I'm sure you'll enjoy as well the episode, as Brian is a very keen and interesting person who is great to speak and discuss all these entrepreneurial things that are so important for small business growth. Well, that's all for today's episode of The Growth Zone. Thank you for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Spotify so you never miss an episode. Plus, if you haven't got your signed copy of the marketing book, stop by on our website at book.prmediareach.com and hurry, because the reserved batch of signed books are almost sold out. So the address is book.prmediareach.com. I'll repeat, book.prmediareach.com.